get ready to thrive loud with Lou Diamond.
Welcome, Thrive Loud listeners, to a special Minisode episode of Thrive Loud. We're calling this the Catch-Up Series, a wonderful opportunity to catch up with previous Thrive Loud guests that have been on and see what they're up to. This goes way back to April of 2018, a little over a year ago now. Wow, kind of crazy. To Peter Kozodoy, who is here with us now. Peter, how are you today?
I'm doing great.
Peter, it's been a while since you've been on, and our Thrive Loud listeners can do some research and find in episode 109, our first conversation, where we chatted with the Honesty Guy. And I know that's your platform still today, and you've got a lot of things going on. You've got a new book coming out. You obviously have your consulting business. You have a lot of things you're speaking about. Let's catch up with Peter and let the Thrive Loud listeners learn from you a little what's going on in your world. Because right before we started, you're like, it's crazy. It's all over the place.
It's crazy, man.
Bring everyone up to speed. What's going on with your world today?
You know, maybe some of the listeners can relate, but being ambitious can sometimes be a bane to one's existence. You know, we all bite off so much and then we're chewing it and we're like, okay, I might choke on all of this because I bit off way too much, but at the same time, it's kind of exciting. So just to give you a little recap, Lou, I'm still at the agency. We've been on the Inc. 5000 list the past couple of years in a row, but I've really branched out, doing a lot of speaking and work and consulting, helping people embrace honesty, as you noted, as a means to really open their eyes to their blind spots, become much better leaders, spot places to innovate in the market. And what I've found and what I write and what I'm speaking about next week in San Francisco Tech Week is that leaders and companies that are willing to embrace honesty, not as this fuzzy thing, but as a strategic tool for growth, just end up kicking ass and driving incredible amounts of profitability. Because now one of my favorite businesses, don't tell anyone, is to help other founders to reorganize their business to get to 7 figures and beyond.
Peter, you do know that this is a podcast. We have hundreds of thousands of listeners. We are telling everyone by you telling everyone, just to let you know.
I know. It's okay. Well, listen, I can't be the honesty guy without a little bit of transparency. So
very good point.
Okay, but between you, listener, and me, helping founders build better business foundations is really, my passion point. And how that relates to honesty is that, and I've been through this myself, we founders have a way of thinking, if only I can sell more of what I'm selling, then, I'm going to be rich and $100 bills are going to fall from the sky. And the truth is, we actually have to take honest looks at our business all the time and constantly be in this sort of micro pivot mode of what if I went just 1 degree to the right with this customer, 1 degree to the left with this profit model or how I'm packaging my offers. And I find that once I can get founders into alignment with what it even takes to build a 7 and 8 figure business, it's like kind of driving a car. You can drive a car that's out of alignment and you'll get there, but it takes so much longer. And if you just put the wheels on a little bit differently, now you're going, 70 down the freeway and it's all good. So that's the kind of work that I'm doing right now.
Let's dive into this a little bit, and we'll talk. We'll save a little window here, obviously, to talk about all the things we could plug what's going on in Peter's world. There is a shift and a pivot in being that entrepreneur, that small company, dealing with one level of income, and then trying to raise that bar into a different stratosphere, a different highway, a different speed. I guess from what you've been seeing, how can you help people who've had that very grassroots stage of their company, which has made their business successful? How do you help them maintain that essence honestly and yet shift? Because many times they might need help to get to that next level. Is that part of a lot of the work that you're doing, helping people maybe let go a little or in that pivot and shift?
Totally.
Explain, yeah.
Yeah. So, with this honesty thing, we get into a lane in our businesses where we think we're in this business, right? This is what I do, and this is who I serve, and that's it. Let me give you an example. I worked with some of my favorite all-time clients. They owned a bridal store selling wedding dresses. Has grown tremendously, great success, lots of notoriety. And then they've kind of hit this plateau a little bit. And I asked them a very simple question. What business are you in? They said, well, we're in the business of selling dresses. I said, no, you're not. They said, well, we're in the wedding industry, aren't we? I said, no, you're not. I said, if you figure out exactly what business you're in, then you can build a business around what's really true about the value you provide. And if you do that, that's going to unlock a lot of other doors to innovation. So what I help them understand is that they're in the business of self-esteem. They're in the business of helping that bride walk down the aisle and have her groom look at her and say, wow, this is the woman I'm marrying. I'm so proud. And that feeling that comes from that. And you can imagine how different their business is once they wrap it around this idea of self-esteem. That changes the way they do customer service, onboarding, pre and post communication, what happens in the appointments, how they even dress up their store, the types of messaging they put out there. So, that now is a business that has much greater legs than how do I sell this dress? And so it's all about the questions that we ask ourselves to, as you put it, break through those ceilings and see our businesses for what they can be. Now, the truth is they were always in the self-esteem business. They just had kind of forgotten what was at the root of all this for them. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, it does. And I'll use something that was a Minisode not too long ago. We had Ryan Folland on, and we talked about his permission-based selling. And he made a great point that when someone asks you what you do, like in the example of your wedding folks, people, they could say they sell wedding dresses. That really isn't what's important. It's not important what you do. It's the problem you solve.
That's right.
And in their instance, it's not necessarily a problem, but they are, as you said, in that self-esteem, they are making brides and the wedding day itself lift itself up. I totally get that. And I think it's key. And you're right. That makes the why of your business much more powerful. So very, very cool. Mm-hmm. Now you're doing this, as I understand it, in a special group that you've been allocating your time to. That was part of your secret that you're really loving what you're doing. Can we talk about this? Because we'll put the links to this in the show notes. I think it's a pretty cool program and an offer that we can share with the Thrive Loud community.
Totally. So for people in service-based businesses that really want to accelerate, I have a one-on-one consulting program that's phenomenal, soup to nuts, growth strategy, all the things we talked about. Then I have a group program called Forum. And what many first-time entrepreneurs don't realize is that once you build $1 million company, doors open to you to organizations that you may have never heard of, like EO or YPO. Now, these organizations require that you build a 7 or 8 figure company. And once you do, then you can get into them, and the networks are phenomenal. I mean, these are Shark Tank stars, New York Times bestselling authors. Many companies that you have heard of and love are in these organizations. However, even though the network is great, the real value is in Forum. And Forum is a construct that these groups have created that bring entrepreneurs together. It's typically 5 to 8 entrepreneurs, and they come together and follow a very rigid structure in a once-a-month meeting where they go down an agenda and they update each other on what's going on in their personal life, family, and business. Not the things that we smile and tell people at networking events, but the real stuff, what's really going on in our lives, the problems we're even afraid to talk about to our spouses, the problems we can't talk about to our friends because they have 9-to-5 jobs and don't understand. And so it really gets to the heart of what's going on and we need to overcome as leaders, because our businesses can only grow as fast as we do as their leader. So what I did was I looked at this program once I'm in EO New York, and I was like, why did it take me years of struggling to finally build $1 million business to get this level of support and accountability and sort of mastermind assistance? Well, I needed this when I was, 200,000, 300,000, 400,000 in revenue. And so I said to myself, I am going to be the one to bring this down to founders who are in that, 6-figure club and wanting to go to $1 million or more. And it has been phenomenal. I'm starting Forum number 2 this month, which is coming up in June. I don't know when this episode will air. And, I'm looking forward to building out many more forums. But the feedback for this has been incredible.
Excellent. And by the way, the good news is this episode is launching on June 4th is the date that this comes out. Sure. So it'll be right there in our Minisode week. I think the June 4th. Might be June 5th. Who knows? Whatever day Wednesday is, June 5th. That's today. Today's June 5th. There you go. So is this, by the way, is this particular group something you do in person? Is it remote? Just so people can understand what forum is about.
Totally. So we come together once a month via a Zoom video call.
Okay.
And then I also have a check-in at the 2-week mark. That's one-on-one with me. So it's, to be quite frank, it's one of the least expensive ways you can get one-on-one time with me focused on your business as your co-CEO. And in that Zoom call, as I said, we go down a very rigid structure. Everyone does a monthly update. One of the entrepreneurs will do a presentation, so a deep dive into one issue that person is experiencing. And we follow, it's really not about giving advice. So what EO and YPO figured out is that when you tell someone what they should do, they shut down. And so we never tell the person, haven't you tried this, or why haven't you done that, or you should do that. That's the worst thing for us entrepreneurs. Instead, what we do is listen intently and then share experiences from our own lives that we think could benefit you. So we follow what's called Gestalt protocol. Are you familiar with Gestalt?
I am. We just had a workshop the other day where we dove into a lot of that component. It's a very effective method. I'm a big fan.
Beautifully effective. And I've actually had some of my entrepreneurs learn to use Gestalt on their kids and spouses and found that they could control them much better, which is sort of a side benefit. But for those of you who don't know what Gestalt is, it's basically speaking from the I and experience sharing versus speaking from you and sort of putting your opinion on someone else.
So, Peter, I want to bring this to a head here and ask the question that you were asking your clients. And I guess the question is, when you're describing yourself today, I guess, what business are you in?
Growth, transformation. Yeah. Helping people understand how they can honestly transform themselves to get to where they're trying to go. Because so often our assumptions and what we think we know is what kills us. And I make a big point in my talk and in my upcoming book to talk about the Bethany Frankel method. For those of you who don't know who Bethany Frankel is, she's a real housewife of New York. And she will stop anyone in their tracks and say, I don't know what that means. Explain that to me. Or what are you saying? Say that another way. And she's obsessed with figuring out the gaps of what she doesn't know. And no wonder she's built, a massively successful business and sold it and has, millions of followers, because she's just always obsessed with illuminating her blind spot. And the founders and owners who can take on that mentality, they will succeed. It's just a matter of time.
Peter, let's do the plugs here. Let's give the upcoming book that's coming out in the fall, I believe you said. And
next spring.
Yeah. Oh, next spring. So we have some time, but give the plug for what the book is going to be and other places people can find you. This is a good refresh now for everyone to touch base with you.
For sure, yeah. So book's called Honest to Greatness. It's slated for next spring. I don't know if that might get moved back because we're trying to time it with certain world events. But that'll be available everywhere. And then you can always visit peterkozodoy.com to see what I'm up to. And forum will be in the show notes, you said?
Yep, Sid will. We will put the link there.
Fantastic, yeah. So that's a great place to start. Google. I'm going to say what you want every good consultant to say, which is Google my name, and you will find plenty of ways to get in touch. I love talking to entrepreneurs and seeing what's going on and how I can help. So feel free to reach out anytime.
Kozodoy, as we all know. The guy with the weird sounding last name, as you put in some of your contacts, which I really like.
That's it, yeah.
Hey, Peter, great catching up with you. Thanks for checking back in here on this Thrive Loud Minisode.
Likewise, always a pleasure. Thanks, Lou.
Talk to you soon.
You've been listening to Thrive Loud with your host, Lou Diamond. Make sure to subscribe on iTunes, Overcast, or wherever you get your podcasts. And follow us on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at Thrive Loud. Or find us on the web at thriveloud.com.